different feuds. And I did struggle with this one a lot.
Not me.
I know, not you. You were the fastest text message I ever got on that one. But feud of the year, Crayfish. Obviously, this was I picked Inner Circle Pinnacle because Jericho has always been one of my top guys. He was, I named him to my Mount Rushmore, and I think the amount of storytelling, the amount of matches, the depth we got with that feud was one of the most fun times in AEW to me as a huge Jericho and Inner Circle mark. And seeing MJF get his butt beat time and time again, and seeing the Inner Circle triumph from the dust and the ashes and overcome all that and against all odds, and the uniqueness with Blood and Guts, with the Stadium Stampede, and things like that. Like I laughed so many times with that feud. I cheered so many times with that feud. We yelled at MJF when we were there in February, screaming at MJF. He gave us the double bird and some other gestures that we didn't want to mention at Daly's place, but we were invested in that feud, for a while, and it was a long feud. And then we saw the ultimate. We saw the end of it, and so we saw it live at All Out. So to me, that roller coaster of emotions that I got with Inner Circle Pinnacle was my feud of the year. And if we're talking male and female, I mean, it's a clean sweep. Bar none. I mean, not even in the same ballpark.
Don't go dancing. Go ahead, Bonds. I'll let you jump in here too, since you guys had the same pick.
Piggyback.
All right, cool. Think about the names in this feud. Like, we genuinely love every single person that's involved. And for me, that was a big part of me getting into this feud. The names involved, the matches. We talked so often. If you go back and watch our old stuff, we talked so often about, man, what matches do we want to see in this feud? We were so excited about it. And we got to see most of the matchups we wanted to see. We got to see Hager versus Wardlow in an MMA fight.
Oh, it's so
like
cool.
That, like just stuff like that. The tag matches we got to see, the trios matches we got to see. All this stuff was epic and awesome, down to the end when Jericho had his career on the line. In this feud.
Exactly.
And man, like, think of all the weeks where probably a third of the show was dedicated to this feud.
Good point.
There were so many weeks where all these guys were carrying the product in a lot of ways. And I just have to give it to them for that, because that's hard to do. The fact that they had like probably a third of the time on AEW television and they were giving it their all. And this was pre-Rampage as well. So they were doing that all on Dynamite, and it wasn't stale. It wasn't boring. It was always entertaining, edge of your seat stuff. And while there was maybe a few too many rematches towards the end, I think that the feud as a whole, like, was just so perfect and long and great. I just enjoyed it. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I feel like this feud, for me, the Thunder Rosa versus DMD feud, is one we're still talking about. Inner Circle versus Pinnacle, that chapter is closed, and it feels like everybody's moved on and everything's moved. Like everything's, there's no real interaction between those groups. And yeah, that was an epic feud this year
of 2021.
It was epic feud this year. But when we go from start to finish on this calendar year, they've allowed that feud between Thunder, that animosity between Thunder and Britt to simmer, and it's never really truly gone away. There's always been those moments where it creeps back up.
We all want,
and it's so close, and they hint at it, and hint at it, and
it's a taste.
And truthfully, like, I'll be honest with you, no feud turned me into a bigger mark than Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa. I was fully invested in that feud. I geeked out about it. I absolutely was in awe of what these two women put themselves through in that unsanctioned match. The beating that they gave each other was epic. Still, I think that is, I mean, we'll talk more about this when we get into the match of the year, right? But that is a strong candidate for match of the year. They redefined, as you said, what I view as the bar for women's wrestling now. These two women, and here's the thing, as a DMD fanboy, I have had to admit over the course of this year that nobody pushes Britt quite like Thunder. No feud, no match, none of it is hit quite like that moment early on in this year. And I just feel like there's something so special about what these two women had, how personal, how violent it got, that I think that this is the defining feud of not only this year of the women's division to this point, and potentially of both of their careers.
How many
this
more
is-
matches in the women's division or in AEW period had the wrestling world and non-wrestling world buzzing after it? I mean,
you don't have
maybe
to
you
say,
can throw in like the blood and guts, like that scene where Jericho off the cage, but there wasn't many matches that I can remember where like on ESPN or other like non-traditional wrestling outlets were talking about certain things.
we've
And
talked
yeah.
and we've talked about it with Thunder. We've talked about it time and again. Britt would not be the star that she is if it wasn't for Thunder Rosa. The work that Thunder does with talent, she constantly as a way of putting talent and creating stars. We've talked about it with a lot of our fans. The work that she's done in AEW, outside of AEW,
Yeah.
she builds stars on her back. And this was, to me, again, if you're telling me my pick for top heel, top female performer of the year is Britt Baker, she would not be in that role if it wasn't for what she did with Thunder Rosa. I think that this feud, like you said, had people buzzing afterwards, is to me, again, I thought potential career-defining feud between these two, and it has not gone away. We began the year and we're ending the year with this.
We don't ever want it to go away.
Going against each other. It's just a beautiful thing. I love it.
It is
poetic.
like every, in the chat we're seeing, every Flair needs a Sting, every Batman needs a Joker, every Stone Cold needs a Vince McMahon, and this is every DMD needs a Thunder Rosa, and vice versa.
Amen.
And it's
so true.
There isn't many other talent that I can say that yin and yangs as well as those two together.